Did Disney ruin Star Wars? Today we're going to talk about it. Before we go any further, please know that there are major spoilers for The Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and pretty much all the Star Wars lore and content that we're going to go over today. What can now be considered one of the greatest franchises of all time. It's no wonder why a story like Star Wars blew up in the first place. From the incredible VFX, to amazing writing, to what we consider to be some of the greatest heroes of our day. We all emotionally connected with Luke Skywalker. We all felt like the Princess Leia when we were, kicking ass and taking names or leaving the Death Star in pieces. That was all in our childhoods. Nowadays, things aren't looking so hot for Star Wars. And today, on Major Nerd, we're going to talk about it. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe and like the channel if you can. Hit that notification bell so this way you can stay up to date whenever we release a new video. When talking about Star Wars, there are three key things that we have to talk about. The fandom, the formula, and of course the finished product. And starting with the fandom, I know you can call us passionate, you can call us crazy, you can call us whatever you want really, but I swear to God, if you touch a finger on Baby Yoda's head, we will tear this place down. Look, it's no surprise that Star Wars captivates all sorts of crowds, from athletes to filmmakers to nerds to cosplayers, but our Star Wars fanbase is considered the most opinionated, but nowadays it's the most polarized. We've never been more at odds with each other about what we think is considered good Star Wars content. And you may have your own opinions about it themselves, and of course leave a comment down below if you agree with me or not. I'd love to hear it. But the fact of the matter is, over the past 5 years, Disney has taken such a corrupt turn with Star Wars, and I think everyone feels it in their gut about what's kind of been put out to the audience. What we come to expect as a fan base and what we were delivered were two completely separate things. So whether or not you're still having the debate about whether or not the original trilogy is better or the prequel trilogy is better, one thing is for certain, that this newest trilogy by Disney has been overall disappointing. To put it into perspective, George Lucas swore off directing any more Star Wars films, and there's a good reason for that. I mean, if you look at Jar Jar Binks and how poorly received that character was, it was enough to make George step away from it completely and eventually lead up to him selling Star Wars as a whole to Disney, which they then ran with it how they saw fit. They have undermined George Lucas's story time and time again, and we know this from other scripts that have already been released and or have been talked about by other people, other networks, Star Wars Theory, etc. We could have had a Star Wars film that truly pleased the fan base, something that did the characters and the story arcs that were in Star Wars justice. Because in the end, that's what we wanted. We wanted justice for Luke Skywalker. We wanted to see Princess Leia find her way in the Force and just, once again, rule the galaxy at once, as time went on. The reality of what we got is far different. The Last Jedi was so atrocious. There were hundreds of thousands of signatures, petitions online to try and get the movie re-scripted or reshot last second, or once people saw it, it was so horrendous of a storyline that a lot of us said that if The Rise of Skywalker didn't do well, we were done. We were not going to watch it anymore. The reality, of course, is that we all still went to go see The Rise of Skywalker, and here we are. We're at the point now where, now that Disney is saying that they're stepping away from major franchise, motion pictures of Star Wars, we're just left kind of wondering, where's the fan base to go? Where, as a storyline, can we follow our favorite heroes now that they're all done? Now that the original guys, the original cast, they're all gone. They're all dead. Now we're just left with Finn, who we don't know who is Force sensitive. We have Rey, who's just an all-powerful god, apparently. And then we're left with Kylo, who's, dead. To put it into perspective, when Disney released The Last Jedi, we were all hyped about where The Force Awakens had left us in terms of a story plot. We had gotten new characters. We had gotten a revitalization of an already amazing story. So to then have The Last Jedi come out and disappoint the fans in a monumental way, to take an iconic character as Luke Skywalker and turn him into a sad, depressed, guilt-riddled hermit, just felt like a letdown. Not just from Disney, but it felt like a letdown from the people at Lucasfilm to allow their beloved story to go in such a weird direction. The lifeblood of any franchise is the fandom, is the people that go to see the film in the theaters. And when we went to see The Last Jedi, we were all left with a bad taste in our mouth, where hundreds of posts online said that if The Rise of Skywalker didn't absolutely nail everything and retcon everything that The Last Jedi had put out, we were done. We were not going to see any more Star Wars films because we felt that strongly about a storyline that we were just going to up and abandon what we consider to be our childhoods, which is a shame. And what made all those other films prior to Disney's horrid trilogy so good? What made them the movies they are today? Well, that's the formula. And that's the second part of this video. The formula is what we come to know and expect from this galaxy far, far away. We expect that everything stems from the Skywalker saga. We grew up with seeing Anakin go from a little boy to betraying Obi-Wan Kenobi. We saw what happened when Darth Vader took over the galaxy with the Empire and Palpatine, and we saw what became of it. And now, I will give credit to Rogue One, because this is a side story where we really got to see what Darth Vader's rule actually looked like to other people. And then we look at a Han Solo story. I mean, if you really want to put it into perspective, think about the release of The Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi. Think about the crazy amounts of people that went to go see the film, the crazy numbers of people that lined up outside movie theaters. And now think about the Han Solo release. Just, Christian, if you can, be a bro and just throw up like a picture of what the Han Solo release looked like. Yeah, no, that doesn't sit well. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that formula with the Han Solo film didn't land right? Why do you think that The Last Jedi left such a bad taste in people's mouths? It's because of justice done for characters. I don't need to have 2.5 hours of exposition explaining to me that Han Solo is a badass when I already know he's a badass. It doesn't make sense. So to waste all of that time on pretty much a pointless story seems a little empty to me. On top of that, with all the loose ends that the new trilogy has put out, it's clear that they didn't care about what story arcs were finished. They really considered this trilogy as a cash cab for Star Wars. Merchandise, porgs. I mean, look at the stuff behind me. Even I've bought some Star Wars stuff, and it's because they know they can sell it. And it really doesn't matter what they put out. And they even commented on this. Kathleen Kennedy and the future of Star Wars, Bob Iger, rest in peace, buddy, I'm so sorry. But we all knew that they wanted to kill off the Skywalker saga because they didn't want to touch George Lucas's writing anymore. They wanted to take that universe and have the legal property to say, well, that chapter's done, and now here's what we're going to do. They didn't really care about the continuity of justice for the original story to what we're getting now. And I think that's why we all, as a nation, as a world, feel that Disney's kind of jumping off the deep end here and making some wrong choices with Star Wars. Bob Iger is not dead. He just stepped down as Disney CEO for those who were not aware. Sorry. He's not dead, I promise. He's not. So another thing when talking about the formula of the film was, how did the Star Wars films make you feel? What made the Duel of the Fates so enticing? What made it one of the most incredible action scenes to this day? It wasn't the fact that there were lightsabers clashing together on some lava mountain. It wasn't the fact that it was just two guys battling out to see who wins. It was the fact that we were so emotionally connected to the characters. We knew of Anakin's betrayal from the first moment we saw him on screen. We knew where it was all going to lead up. And this was the pinnacle moment where everything in the universe for Star Wars was going to change. And we wanted to see that happen. And we saw that there was conflict between both characters, and we honestly did not know who would prevail. In the end, we kind of did. But when you were sitting there as a kid watching it, it felt like the most incredible story and the most epic twist when you get to see Anakin rise up from the metal table as Vader and just scream, "No!" But that's what I'm just trying to hone in, is that these moments, these memes, these things that echo throughout our social media today, they all stem from incredible films that was made with so much love and care from George Lucas and the team at Lucasfilm that it almost seems like we all saw the curtain pulled back when Disney just threw us together this member berry filled almost like snapshot of what we wish Star Wars was. We knew that Rey was powerful. We wish we saw some more backstory. What we got with Rey was essentially her being a god who killed everybody in her path, never had any challenges ever, and overcame every obstacle and had every answered question given to her on a silver platter. She literally did next to nothing except for a few quick lightsaber fights where she just happens to be good at fighting, and we're like, yep, this is what we're getting now. Just someone who goes from, I'm a nobody, to, I'm a Jedi Master. Do you see something wrong with that? We spent 2 films on the training of Luke Skywalker just to be good enough for a moment to take on Vader alone. The whole movie was based on, Luke, you need to go to Dagobah, you need to train your ass off so that this way, when that pinnacle moment comes when you face the villain, you'll be prepared. And Rey just goes, nope, just kidding. I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to, hi. I win. It's done. Hi. That's the end of the movie. That's not Star Wars to me. That doesn't scream conflict. That screams they wanted to put a woman in front of the camera and make her swing a lightsaber around and then wrap the movie up. She could have had so much more depth. We could have found out about Rey's parents. We could have actually been emotionally drawn to her as a person if we just didn't get, who are my parents? There's nothing else to her but that shallow question. And it's not a shallow question to know who your parents are. To anybody who's an orphan...
With internet access.
With internet access, maybe you felt connected to Rey as a character. Maybe you did. But I'm sure even you as an orphan had other questions like, who is my parents? Like, why do I feel connected to the Force? Or why am I suddenly such a freaking master with a lightsaber and any weapon that I pick up? No, none of those questions were answered. We were just given 2 hours of exposition, Adam Driver looking like a very sad, depressed, sexy man, and then not even a lightsaber fight. It was a holographic lightsaber fight between Luke Skywalker and Adam Driver. Luke was a hologram that then floated off and died for some reason, because apparently when you use the Force now, you die out of nowhere. Which kind of goes and begs the question, how come Yoda didn't die when he lifted the X-Wing up? How come Palpatine didn't die when he sent his essence over to another clone? There are so many questions about why these plot holes are so abundant. It's not even about which plot holes are the most terrible. It's about, why are there so many plot holes and why is there no justification for it? J.J. Abrams did an amazing job retconning a lot of that terrible footage from The Last Jedi, but even with almost 3 hours, there's really no saving what's considered to be the worst Star Wars film ever made. I guess a good question we all have on our minds is why? Why did Disney take a beloved franchise like Star Wars, took something that we knew and loved, and change the formula dramatically? And we can do this by actually looking at Disney's motives. Already, the investment that Disney had made in buying Star Wars from Lucasfilm has just been returned. They confirmed that that budget or that financial deficit has been made up, and now it's pretty much, they're just rolling with it. They're just taking that franchise and going however they want. Bob Iger, although he is no longer the president or the CEO of Disney, he did say that they are going to be stepping back from recording major franchise movies like, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. The formula in a nutshell was the following of our protagonist, the hero, through the story of whether or not he would fight for the side of good or the side of evil. Whether or not he would join the Jedi and become a master like his father, or would he join the dark side like his father. Either way, we knew from the get-go the point of the movie was that determination. Whether or not Luke Skywalker would go through that journey and where he would end up, that's why we all watched. We wanted to see where that story led up. Whereas Rey in Star Wars was always just kind of handed everything to her on a silver platter. There was really no conflict that built up in an emotional story that left anyone feeling other than she was just a really shallow character. Aside from the fact that Snoke is Palpatine and Palpatine is the bad guy from the previous trilogies and is the bad guy now. It really just seems that Disney hash-mashed together what little storyline they had left over that could be used, and they brought back something that they knew would make them money. It's all about money. Now that the Skywalker saga is done, I'm sure that Star Wars is going to continue to release other products in the future that will flesh out that universe a little bit more so, but we all still focus on the same thing. We all still want some version of the Skywalker saga in front of us so we can continue that arc, so we can see whether or not Rey either turns to the dark side eventually, or is in fact a Skywalker all along and she lives a long, happy, rabbit-filled, butterfly-flying life that she deserves. I guess that really brings us to our final topic here, which is the finished product. We have two trilogies essentially directed by George Lucas. We have another trilogy that's directed by two other people, Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams. We have books, we have comics, we have video games, we have all the merchandise you can think of. With the final chapter of the Skywalker saga just being released on Blu-ray, it's no wonder why people are kind of hesitant about whether or not they should even pick up the Blu-ray DVD in the first place. Do you want to continue giving Disney your money for subpar movies that we know aren't made with the same love and care that we come to expect? I'm sure everyone that worked on the movie put blood, sweat, and tears into it. But when it comes to the decisions about the story arc, the character development, and everything about what made this trilogy, the new trilogy, what it is today, it just seems like it was a cash grab. It just seems like a way for Disney to rake in as many bucks introducing new characters with little to no backstory and expecting you to just love it the same way that we did with the original trilogy. It's a shame. So, in the end, it all boils down to a few questions. Did Disney ruin Star Wars for us? Yeah, I'd like to think they did. We had something that was so pure, something magical that we had from our childhoods. Just to have it rehashed and slapped together in 4K quality and shoved down our throats expecting us to love it, when the world agreed that that was not the case. The Last Jedi pushed us as a fandom farther than we ever have, polarizing us more than ever before. And it's clear that at Disney's level, we have come to expect better quality content from a company that big. And Disney is a great company. Disney is El Jefe. It's Papa Disney here. But you need to think that in the long run, if they don't do the fandom justice about the story that we've come to love and expect, why do they expect that we're going to stay with them in the long run? We love what is out right now. We love Clone Wars. We love Rebels. We love The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is a wonderful look into a separate pocket of the same universe. It's just fleshing it out more. And there's less, what's a way of putting it? There's less necessarily at stake with the larger characters in the franchise films than someone, let's say, Baby Yoda. Although he may have a larger story arc in the long run, right now we're okay with seeing that character develop because it's brand new to us. And it's not tied to the Skywalker bloodline. We all fell in love with Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, R2-D2, and C-3PO. And the fact that we're not going to get that anymore seems kind of lackluster. Rebels was great. I love watching Ezra Bridger shoot up stormtroopers and fly off in the Ghost as much as anyone else does. But can you watch that for the next 40 years? Will the Han Solo movie last up to withstand scrutiny over 40 years the same way that the prequels and the original trilogy did? I don't think so. I think, in reality, Disney didn't care if Han Solo or these movies, The Rise of Skywalker or The Last Jedi did well. It didn't matter. As long as they made that money back that they knew that they can then roll the ball with Star Wars as a whole, they just wanted to just close the chapter once and for all and give us what we're given. They did not care about it. If you look at the last few scenes of The Rise of Skywalker, we could have gotten what could have been a much better ending. We could have seen the Force Ghost come on screen and actually show Rey and show the audience that they were there in spirit and showing her the path to the Force, showing her that even though she comes from a terrible bloodline, that she can withstand that darkness in her and defeat evil. Instead, we got a 45-second shot of looking up into space, hearing multiple voices that took days of people to cipher through the film and edit so you could hear which one's which. We heard Obi-Wan Kenobi. We heard Qui-Gon Jinn, Yoda. You heard a whole slew of other people. And we only heard their voices. Such a lost opportunity to really do fan service. And Disney didn't care. They wanted to just wrap up that storyline so quick that you didn't have a moment to think about it. We knew that the Rise of Skywalker was supposed to be the rise of a Skywalker. Then why did a Skywalker die? Why did Ben Solo, of all characters, the one that we were actually drawn to, the one that had the most character development, fall off a cliff? It's called the Rise of Skywalker. Why would you send him down? It doesn't make sense. I'm at a loss, guys. But I actually really want to know what you think. Is Disney ruined for good? Is this the end of what we know and love as a whole? Or is this just the beginning of something much worse? Can we expect things like The Mandalorian, which are amazing, to come out? Or can we expect The Last Jedi over and over and over, with different directors not caring about continuity and just really caring about the dollars? If you have a comment, please leave it down below. I would love to hear it. Once again, I am Eric Cuevas with Major Nerd. I hope you have a great day, and may the Force be with you.